Every single day, SWIFT moves payment messages worth around $5 trillion across 200 countries. 59.7 million messages a day, 15.1 billion in 2025 alone. And there's a crypto asset that settles in under 5 seconds that people keep saying will replace it. That asset is XRP. Here's the part almost nobody explains. This isn't really a technology question. It's a power question. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what would have to happen, and why it probably won't look like you think. First, let's be clear about what SWIFT is. It's not a bank. It's a messaging network. 11,500 institutions in over 200 countries use it to tell each other, this money is moving. When your bank sends money abroad, the money barely moves. What moves is a message, then banks settle among themselves later. And that system is old. It was built in the 1970s. A typical cross-border payment still takes 1 to 3 days, hops through multiple correspondent banks, and every handoff adds cost. The World Bank has tracked average fees around 6% for smaller remittances. 6%. That's the pain XRP was designed to attack. XRP is a bridge asset on the XRP ledger, a decentralized network where settlement takes 3 to 5 seconds and costs a fraction of a cent. No correspondent banks. No waiting for business hours. The ledger runs 24/7. Ripple, the company behind most of its early development, joined the ISO 20022 registration management group back in 2020. That's the same messaging standard the banking world was migrating to. It also launched RLUSD, a dollar-backed stablecoin, to pair with XRP for payments. As of mid-2026, more than 300 companies use Ripple's payment network. That's real usage. But here's the number that matters. SWIFT still does 59.7 million messages a day. Ripple's volume is a rounding error next to that. Now here's where the story gets weird. On April 1, 2026, SWIFT announced its new retail payments framework. 50-plus banks, 25-plus corridors, going live by mid-2026. And at least 30 of those banks already have ties to Ripple's ecosystem. Read that again. SWIFT, the network XRP was supposed to replace, built a new framework and named dozens of Ripple-connected banks in it. On top of that, a payments firm called Thunes has integrated XRP as a bridge asset through a SWIFT side channel, meaning banks can use XRP inside SWIFT without it being mandatory. Ripple itself published a proposal in May 2025 arguing XRP and RLUSD together could replace SWIFT. But the market is answering differently. It's integrating XRP into SWIFT. By June 29, 2026, analysts at Crypto.news had published the obvious conclusion. Ripple had quietly softened its own rhetoric. The company that used to say replace SWIFT now says complement it. Because SWIFT didn't sit still. It finished a massive ISO 20022 data standard overhaul, and it's building its own blockchain ledger. The honest framing. Payments aren't a winner-take-all game. XRP is becoming one of several liquidity rails, used by banks that opt in, ignored by banks that don't. The real revolution isn't XRP replacing SWIFT. It's the messaging and settlement layers finally separating. SWIFT keeps the messages. Blockchains settle the value. So what would XRP replaces SWIFT actually require? 3 things. 1. Banks would need to hold XRP on their balance sheets, billions in liquidity, which means regulatory approval from every major central bank. 2. Every corridor needs enough volume to avoid slippage, a chicken and egg problem that took correspondent banking decades to solve. 3. SWIFT itself would have to be displaced by a standard, not a company, and standards don't get displaced overnight. Could it happen? Technically, yes. The ledger already does seconds-level settlement. But practically, the most likely future isn't XRP replaces SWIFT. It's XRP settles what SWIFT messages. The infrastructure layer changes. The brand survives. Here's the takeaway. When people ask when will XRP replace SWIFT, the real answer is, it already started, but not the way the headline said. XRP isn't storming the gates of banking. It's becoming the settlement layer underneath it. If you want to follow how this actually plays out, the bank partnerships, the regulatory shifts, the volume numbers, subscribe, because I break this stuff down every week. And drop a comment. Do you think XRP ends up inside SWIFT, or outside it?